Hello, my name is Giovanna Fattori,
And my name is Annemarie Diaz.
and the concept that we are talking about today is chemical bonds.
What are chemical bonds? Chemical bonds are when electrons are shared or redistributed between atoms. If their energy is lower and energy is not added, these atoms can get stuck in their shared configuration. And today we'll be talking about 3 different kinds of chemical bonds, which are metal bonds, ionic bonds, and covalent bonds. Metal bonds are bonds between only metal atoms. This happens when their valence electrons are delocalized, making these electrons able to flow freely in what is known as the sea of electrons, and this allows these metal bonds to be good conductors of heat and electricity. Examples are gold bars, which are metal bonds between two gold, and then brass, which are metal bonds between copper and zinc. Ionic bonds are formed between oppositely charged ions. They allow for one atom transferred from electron to another atom. An example of this is NaCl, which is table salt. Cations and anions can also be formed through ionic bonds. Cations are when an atom loses an electrons and becomes positively charged, and an anion is when atoms gain electrons and it becomes negatively charged.
And our last type of bond are covalent bonds. And covalent bonds are created by two atoms sharing one or more pairs of electrons. Examples of covalent bonds are O2, H2, and H2O. There are 2 types of covalent bonds, polar and nonpolar bonds. A polar bond results from unequal sharing of pairs of electrons between atoms, for example, H2O. And when we're finding polar covalent bonds, we can use electronegativity to help us find them. Electronegativity is an atom's likelihood to attract electrons toward itself in a chemical bond. So the polarity of the bond depends on the difference in the electronegativity values of the 2 elements the bond connects. In nonpolar bonds, a bond is a bond that results from an even distribution of charge in a chemical bond. The 2 atoms in the bond share electrons equally. For example, CH4, which is known as methane. So with this information, we can solve the question of how to write a Lewis dot script with a molecule consisting of 1 carbon, 1 oxygen, and 4 H atoms. So 1 carbon has 4 valence electrons, hydrogen has 1 valence electron, and oxygen has 6 valence electrons. And we place carbon in the middle because it has 4 valence electrons, which allows it to be able to bond to multiple elements. And so we bond our hydrogens to our carbon and to our oxygen, which then fills which creates a full valence shell here. And our bond is evenly distributed. And thank you.
Thank you.